I suppose the petition would have been sort of you're exploring the possibility of running, but again, not announcing yet. So I'm curious, what made you want to think about running for governor?
Well, this is not new. This is something that I have been considering literally for 15 years. I even got a group of individuals, friends together. We went to Cedars 11 State Park. This is in 2013 to talk about this potential option that not just for me, but others to get involved in the political realm. Again, I don't, I'm not a big fan of the political realm, but that's obviously what happens when you run for any kind of office. But we talked about it then, about the struggles, the difficulties, the temptations, all of that associated with that. And it was just like-minded brothers in Christ that we got together. And if there was an avenue that some of us, myself included, that would eventually be there to support one another. And that was the basis of the discussion. But then life happened, and so many events of life delayed. One of the individuals that was with us there was a friend from the Navy, and he has served several terms in the House there in the state of Missouri. So we've had some come from that and actually serve. And when it came time for me to leave NASA, actually, if the Starliner mission had been according to plan, I think there's a pretty good chance, again, all things being equal, that I would have been in the race early. But that didn't happen. So things were delayed, as you know. Things had been delayed up to the launch for years, and then we finally launched, and then the delay on orbit. And so the fact that I was considering entering the race even late was something that was not optimal, but also that was also out of my hands as well. And so just looking at the lay of the land, I just honestly, I feel this patriotic tug is why I joined the Navy almost 40 years ago now to begin with. It's why I joined. And I still have that patriotic tug. And this is really to do my part for my state. This state, this wonderful state, I call it God's country, is what provided the foundation. Coaches, schools. I mean, I went to obviously public schools. I went to state universities, Tennessee Tech. I got two master's degrees while I'm serving in the Navy, not physically in Tennessee because I'm serving in the Navy aboard aircraft carriers. Well, I got two master's degrees from state schools while I was serving. And so it just really laid the foundation for this life that went places I never dreamed as a kid growing up in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, when I was, feeding my chickens and bearing my rooster that the dogs had gotten and other things like that. I never dreamed about the life that would transpire. And this state is what gave me the main foundation for the life that ensued after that. And I just had this very strong tug to feel to, give back to this state. And I thought that would be a capacity with the experiences I've had, and I'm not someone young that's coming into that realm that doesn't have life experiences to fall back on. And I think that's one thing that I see in our governmental roles. Not that the current candidates are that here for this position. I'm just saying in general, where there's many people that are serving and making decisions for our nation that just have had very minimal life experiences to back up some of the things and decisions and the concepts that they feel strongly about. And I think that myself, I've had that in a unique way in many fashions. And I thought that would be a good fit for me to help this state continue. I think Governor Haslam and Governor Lee have done an amazing job to get this state pointing in the right direction. They've done an outstanding work over the last, goodness, it's been the last 16 years, right? And I think to continue that was something I was eager to do and take part in. But it's just for the reasons that are outside of my control. Again, I'm not going to be able to do that.
And let's talk about that. One of the reasons I understand is the state that you love, there was a residency concern because of your work
Sadly,
with NASA.
sadly, yes. So I maintained my residency, 30 years service in the Navy, maintained my residency here throughout. I could have easily changed it at any time, didn't want to. Kept my cars registered here, kept my driver's license, everything throughout the whole time. My parents sold their home the year that I was leaving the Navy. I was retiring from the Navy. Still assigned to NASA. I'd been with NASA for 15 years, 16 years at the time. Continued to serve with NASA. I bought their home with a friend. We sold it years later, and I didn't want to move my voter registration, but I had to. If I wanted to vote, and I'm not going to not vote, if I wanted to do it legally, and I'm not going to do it illegally, I'm not going to say I'm living in Tennessee. I have a residence here when I don't. I'm not going to lie. So if I wanted to vote, I had to move my registration to Texas. And so I did. And the moment I left NASA, decided to leave NASA, I had a residency here and I moved my registration back. And it's because of that that a seventh generation Tennessean that has served his nation for 40 years is not eligible to run for the governor's state of Tennessee. And I know that statute that's in the Constitution was not written for someone like me. I understand that. And I know that. That's was my argument because I've known about the statute for quite some time. I just didn't see it applying to me. And it wasn't until after I pulled the petition that I spoke to the attorney at the Secretary of State's office, and he made it clear, and it was on me that I didn't completely understand what he was saying ahead of time, is that I would not be allowed to be put on the ballot because of this break in my voting record. Again, that I did because I wasn't going to lie and I wanted to vote. So, because of that, a seventh generation Tennessean served his country for 40 years is not eligible to run for the governor in Tennessee. And it's pretty shocking to me, but that's the way it is. And I wasn't going to fight the law that I would be running to uphold. I wasn't going to do that. So my
I sense
integrity
a,
wouldn't allow me to do that. So that's why I can't run.
I sense a little frustration though there with this because
Well,
it's
I don't think it's frustration. It's sadness. I mean, I honestly, I wouldn't even consider running if I didn't think that I could do a bang up job at the position. I wouldn't even consider it, right? So there's disappointment that the way it has played out is a reason that I can't run. Again, I say it again, seventh generation Tennessean, serve your country 40 years, but you can't run for governor. That's just the way it is. And I would hope that the powers that be in our legislature would see this, not necessarily for me, but if anybody might come after me and try to rectify this issue with our Constitution to where it would be. I think multiple candidates running for any position is a good thing, for our voters to have choices, and I think that's a positive endeavor going forward. If we can get this stipulation changed, I think I could run for president of the United States, but I can't run for governor of Tennessee. I mean, it's kind of ironic.
sure is. And I want to talk about your book. I know we've been talking about this a lot, but just one more question. From
Yes.
the sounds of it, I mean, it sounds like we can expect you to be running for office in Tennessee as soon as you can.
We'll see where the Lord leads. I mean, given the opportunity with the right setting and everything, well, that is a possibility. But we'll see. We'll see.
Anything else you want people to know about how this all went down, the headlines, and then people thinking you were running and then backtracking and, anything else you want to address while you have the floor,
I
so to
never
speak?
I never backtracked. I never went forward. I was doing my due diligence to understand all the stipulations of what running is with the consideration of the situation being was with me. And the only reason I pulled the petition is because it wasn't a done deal, at least as far as my understanding at the time, that I wouldn't be able to run. And you can't submit it. I wasn't going to pull the petition the day prior, get signatures, and run over and I plan ahead, be wise in that fashion. So I got the petition several weeks prior. And then it's again, because I pulled the petition, the word got out. That's when I contacted the Secretary of State's office one more time. And that's when it became clearer to me. And again, I blame myself that it wasn't clear to me before that I wouldn't be able to be put on the ballot. I thought I'd be on the ballot, and somebody might come in and contest my residency, and then we'd go from there. I was mistaken, and that's on me.
Well, thank you for talking so much about that, but let's
Yes.
talk about stuck in space. First of
All
all,
right.
I love that you titled it that way because when we were reporting on this, we had people saying here and there, oh, don't say they're stuck. They're not stuck. But were you stuck in space? Can you settle that once and for all for us?
I could say the reason the book is titled that way. I didn't choose the title. I learned that when you publish a book, the publisher picks the title. And so the publisher, obviously, if he's putting a lot of funds into that, obviously he'd like to recoup some of that. So the title is important. I get it. Did I feel stuck in space? Were we stuck in space? I would say there are many definitions that align with stuck, stranded. Yes, that many definitions do. But did I feel like I was stuck? Obviously, we were. We were in a situation where we were not able to return when we had planned. We were extended, but remember, we had prepared for all possible contingencies. And one thing that you do is you prepare for a contingency that keeps you on space station longer. So we had trained, we could do every single experiment. do every single type of maintenance. We could operate the robot arm. We could do spacewalks, which we did, because we had done the adequate preparation for a long duration mission. And plus, Sonny Williams, and I both had been space station commanders in the past. So we'd done long duration. We had the experience. And if anybody was going to get extended in on space station for any amount of time, it's those type of people that have the experience that you hope that are the ones that happens to. And as it turns out, that's the way it played out. Were we stuck in space? Yeah, there's definitions. Yes, we were. But ultimately, I believe Jesus Christ is Lord. I believe the Bible is true, and I believe He is sovereign. And ultimately, it was Him that allowed this all to transpire, again, according to His plan and His purposes for His glory and our good, if we believe. And I've said that many times. So it wasn't a surprise to Him. It was a surprise to us. But we just kind of maintain our contentment and flow right on in and do the job that we're called to do. And again, honestly, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to serve your nation. And if you have the opportunity to be, to fly in space and that gets extended, I mean, that's ultimately a privilege as well. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the privilege to serve our nation in that fashion. And the fact that it turned out this way, ultimately, I mean, looking back, would I have done it differently? Yeah, I would have loved Starliner to be a complete success, but that's just not the way it turned out.
Was there ever a moment in time where you truly thought, I might be stuck here forever? I might not be able to get home, or maybe at least not get home safely, because there were concerns about how you all were going to get back to Earth and if it was going to be a safe travel back. So, did you have either one or both of those thoughts?
I did, but it was before we ever docked. It was while we were still in Starliner attempting to dock, because when we had the thruster failures, we lost the ability to maintain full control of the spacecraft. And so I'm on the controls. I'm manually controlling the spacecraft, and it was not easy. I'll just say it like that. It was not easy. I was using every ounce of experience I'd had. I'm visualizing orbital mechanics in my mind, and that's how two spacecraft fly in close proximity to each other, what my control inputs would be, and it was not simple. And so during that time frame, I thought, okay, we have to dock. And to answer your question, if we don't dock, I'm not sure we can make it back to Earth. In being the situation what it is. And again, remember, at the time we're losing thrusters, we have no idea why. We just know they're dropping. And so during that window of time, we have to dock. If we don't dock, I'm not sure what our options are. It could be the worst option. That's definitely within the realm of possibility. And also, if we do dock successfully, if we're able to dock, I don't think that'll be very difficult for us to come back on this spacecraft, because of just understanding how difficult it is to assess what the problems were and to bound the problems enough to make us feel comfortable enough to crawl back in and come back to Earth. So even before, the only time I felt that way was before we ever docked. But
But
after we got safely to the space station, it's a safe haven, and the process, I knew it would be a long process. Like I said, before we even docked, I knew it would be. And it turns out we got back even sooner than what it looked like we were going to. It looked like June was the most likely scenario, and we got back in March. So the administration got involved and swapped some things around, and we got back sooner than what would have probably happened.
is there a moment that happened on board that maybe you haven't shared with anyone yet? Something that you thought about later, or that you want to give us a little scoop on, a little secret that happened?
Oh my! I mean, there's a lot I have that I haven't shared, but I don't know that much of that would be very interesting. But scoop on, I don't know. I think as soon as we got to the space station, my first phone call was the flight director, our primary flight director, Vincent LaCourte, and because we have emergency scenarios where we have to get in our spacecraft and leave the space station in certain scenarios. We've never had to do that, but we train for that. It's called safe haven, get in your spacecraft and leave. And I'm like, well, then we got a sick spacecraft. What are our options? Or is this the spacecraft we get in? I mean, we can't fit in a Soyuz, and the Dragon's got enough room, but they don't have any seats. We can't plug our spacesuits into anything for to get environmental control air and all. So what are our options? He said, Starliner's your option. So if that unlikely scenario happens, yeah, that's your option right now. And for 2 months, that was our option. The 6-8 spacecraft was our emergency return spacecraft. Obviously, that didn't happen, but that's one thing that transpired as you go through these processes. That yeah, it's not optimal, but that's all you got.
Well, I hate that. I think we're running out of time, but I just wanted to ask because I could talk to you endlessly. I've enjoyed this so much, but I want to make sure if there is one message or lesson, like the reason why you wanted to write this book for everyone to read, what is that takeaway for
Oh
people?
yeah, I appreciate that. So I started writing chapters before this ever happened. My wife and I had our daughters. We were in our 40s, and we lived a life before they were born. So I really wrote it for them. The reason I published it, the reason I published this, yeah, here I'll show it. Stuck in Space. The reason I published it is because I think it gives a message of hope in the now. Life is tough. Everybody sees the toughness of life. They feel stuck in many situations, whether it's in a job, maybe they feel stuck in a marriage, whatever it is. They feel that way. And I think you see hope in the now that our God is sovereign. He's in control. He's working out his plan, his purposes, as I've already said, for his glory and our good, if you will believe. And it's so hope in the now, and it obviously points to hope, eternal hope that comes through only through Jesus Christ our Lord. And that's why I published it. I wrote it for my daughters, published it for the message of hope.
Well, thank you so much. You've been so generous with your time today and for sharing. And I know Leanne will share the sentiment that we thank you so much. And hey, if we can chat with you again in the future, we'd always love to catch up with you.
You let me know. Thank you.
Have a great one.